The July Mythic banner is finally here, and I'm excited to see who we get. Honestly, I kind of hope it's someone who's just completely out of left field. I know it could be someone like Freyr, I think is the most obvious choice, and then there's also like the option of like maybe, I don't know, Fafnir or something else. Personally, I would love to just see someone completely new, or Athos. I will always take Athos. Either ways, let's jump in and see who we got. Who is it? Who is going to be our new Mythic? And what season are they going to be? Oh, it's Freyr. I'm so happy that we got Freyr. Oh man. Okay, so here's my feeling. I know a lot of people have been waiting for Freyr for literally forever. It's been so many years, and now that he's finally become relevant again, this was their chance to add him. But I don't care, to be honest, in the slightest. And he's also a blue beast cav, right? Like, it's the exact same thing we just got with Nerthus. I'm not too excited. We'll see what he does. Maybe he's like super broken. And he is an attack Anima Mythic as well. Let's see what happens. Okay, let's start off at the top with his PRF weapon, Dreamhorn. So essentially what we have here is we have Slaying, then we have a big debuff to attack and defense based off the total bonuses either on Freyr himself or allies within 3 spaces, +6. So essentially let's say that Freyr has +6 to all stats, so that would be 24 stats in total. You take half of that, which would be 12, and then +6. So that would inflict essentially -18 attack and defense on the foe, which is pretty ridiculous. That's a ton of stats to get. I think that's pretty powerful, but it doesn't stop there. He also gets a guaranteed follow-up attack. He also reduces damage from attacks during combat and from AoEs by 30%. Then he gets the new Beast Transformation, which essentially is like a clash effect, but with only a max of 6. And if X equals at least 5 or more, you get 30% damage reduction against the first attack. So overall, this weapon's okay. It's not bad. You definitely are going to get a ton of stats. You're going to hit really hard, and Freyr is going to have some solid damage reduction, which will be nice. But I'm not seeing anything like insane here. It doesn't really seem all that crazy, especially considering that he's probably going to be a slower unit, which means like anything with no follow-up will essentially be able to stop his guaranteed follow-up attack and probably survive. But who knows, maybe his preference C skill will be really broken. Let's move down to his new B skill, low attack defense 4. So essentially this is going to work the same way as low speed defense 4. You're going to inflict attack and defense -X on the foe, and then X will equal 4 plus a number of bonuses on that unit. It's a very powerful skill, glad to see it finally in the game, but it being locked to Freyr does kind of suck just because that means you have to sacrifice him to actually get access to it. Okay, now let's talk about his preference C skill, Dream Deliverer. Okay, so we have Dream Deliverer, and essentially what this does is at start of player phase or enemy phase, if Freyr is within 2 spaces of an ally, he neutralizes any penalty that takes effect on unit or allies within 2 spaces of him at that time. So this is already a very powerful effect, right? This can turn off all kinds of debuffs. It can also turn off False Start, which is where I'm guessing this is going to be targeted at. If that wasn't enough though, he also grants a visible defense and res +6 and resonant shields to himself and allies within 2 spaces of unit. And if he's within 3 spaces of an ally, he's going to give an additional defense and res +4 to himself and inflict guard. So this obviously is a very powerful ability. This is essentially like an odd or even recovery without the healing, and it happens like on both phases. So it's very powerful, obviously. It's gonna be able to shut down a lot of different things you're trying to do here. Now I think ELIMINE might actually be able to shut this down with False Start. I'm not completely sure based on the wording, but the thing is Freyr will probably be pretty resistance and defense heavy, so you can probably stack resistance on him to like kind of get rid of False Start and wouldn't matter. I don't know. I'm gonna have to test this one out to see exactly how it works, but it is interesting. The difference I think though is that Freyr himself, other than this, does not seem very good, right? We've seen like units like Odor, and we've seen other units who just don't really add much to the team other than like one effect, not do that great on defense. The difference of course is that False Start is such a big deal in Astra season, so if this actually is a counter to False Start and can actually shut it down, then Freyr might just have a position on Anima defense. The other thing we have to consider, of course, is that there are so many good Anima Mythics at the moment, right? We have Arvel, we have Amoris, we have Mirabilis. So we're going to have to see where Freyr exactly fits, but this is a very powerful effect, and I'm very interested to see where this pops off at. Okay, when it comes to roles, I think Freyr's main role is that he wants to be like a tank bruiser kind of unit, right? He wants to go in, he wants to be very bulky, he wants to hit things extremely hard and kill them, but at the same time, he wants to be able to take damage, right? He has a ton of damage reduction, he has a ton of defense and resistance just to make himself very bulky. Now, honestly, like I've said a million times before, I don't think tank calves are very good. Typically, they kind of suck. So I don't think that's going to be the best role for him, and I don't think it's going to be something that he really like does amazingly well in. I think all of Freyr's impact on the meta will come completely down to Dream Deliverer and how that interacts with other effects. If Dream Deliver works extremely powerfully, right, if it turns off every single penalty that can be annoying or like false start or a whole bunch of other things, then yeah, Dream Deliver is going to be really, really good, right? You can turn off things like exposure, you can turn off things like stall or whatever else, right? That is going to be the power of Freyr right there. So as a unit himself, I'm not very impressed with Freyr, but if Dream Deliver is really good, then I think Freyr is going to be good as well. So when it comes to roles, right, you're going to have that tanky role, and then you're also going to have support role, and I think the support role is going to be the one that really matters for Freyr. Now when it comes to game modes, I think the one game mode that he's absolutely going to be used in, if anywhere, is going to be Aether's defense, obviously. That's what he's built for, and this effect is definitely built seemingly to counter false start. Now, if it's possible that if some other nasty penalties come out that we really have to deal with in Summoner Duels, then maybe Freyr will show up there as well. But until I actually get to do some testing with Dream Deliver, I'm not 100% sure on that. Okay, let's talk about the rest of the banner, and I want to start off by talking about colorless, because I think colorless is actually very stacked on this banner. You get essentially 3 very impactful mythics, though we could say ELIMINE might be getting countered here by Freyr. Either way, ELIMINE is definitely a meta Astra mythic with her false start effect, and her merges do increase your score, so it is a nice thing to pull extra copies of her. We also have Medius, who's one of the most meta impactful dark mythics at the moment. On guard is extremely powerful, so getting at least 1 copy of him is really good. And he has cancel control fodder, which you can always use more of if you're playing SD. And then lastly, we have Arvel, who is also just an amazing Anima mythic with their ability to just punch through things and inflict that nasty guard. After that, we do have Blue, and I think Blue is pretty stacked as well, right? You're getting Nerthus, who's also a light mythic who's going to be able to put in some work on Gale Force teams, though she is a bit niche in my opinion. But she also has really good fodder in attack speed clash and alarm attack speed. And then you get the new mythic, of course, in Freyr, who may or may not be meta. We'll have to find out after some testing and after some time. But most importantly, in my opinion, you get Rearmed Ingrid. And Rearmed Ingrid is very, very good. And this is for a couple reasons. First, as a unit, she's extremely powerful, and she's an amazing frontliner due to the power of Guard Bearing 4. The second thing, of course, is that she has the Arcane Lance, Arcane Luin, which is so very good. In my opinion, it is the best arcane weapon we've ever received. It is so extremely powerful. And then third, of course, is that she is a rearmed hero, which means she can do skill duplication. And she's a flying rearmed hero, which means that she can duplicate skills like Guidance 4 or Soaring Guidance 4. And I think this is so undervalued at the moment. It is ridiculously good to be able to duplicate those skills, and the amount of fodder and value you can get from it is stupid. So I would definitely recommend doing that if you're interested in copying those skills, which, you know, they are the most meta skills in the game right now, so why wouldn't you not want to do that? Then after that, we have Red and Green, and they're kind of tied in my opinion. Red does have some nice legendaries in Lilina and Sigurd, who are good units, but they are a bit old and they're definitely showing their age. So that's kind of like a letdown a little bit because they don't really score optimally and they're not like super meta, but they are definitely usable. But you also get Male Alir, and Male Alir is a very good god sword with its just ability to give charge not only to himself, but to his support partner as well. And he comes with pretty good fodder, right? You're getting Repel 4, which is one of those tier 4 B skills you want on your god swords. And he's just a great unit, so I think Red's like not terrible to pull on, but not amazing either. And the same can be said for Green, right? Green, you do have Atri and Thor. Thor is a good Astra Mythic, but she's definitely not as powerful as she once was, right? She's definitely not able to initiate like she used to be. She's mostly used now for the cooldown acceleration support or Gale Forcing like after someone else initiates. And then Atri is in the same position where she is a very good legendary in Arena, but outside of Arena, she's definitely fallen off, and she's not used really in game modes like an SD or like Aether's defense or offense anymore. And then lastly, we have Selene, and Selene is super underrated. I think Selene's a very good unit. She's an amazing healing support, and she's a very respectable nuke as well. And if you don't really want to use Selene, she does have cancel control, so that's always an option as well. Okay, let's move on to the Anima Mythic tier list. So at the very top in S+, we have Femortis, Arvel, and Mirabilis. I think these are just by far the 3 best mythics at the moment. As E3's defense exists right now, you pretty much always need a save, at least a near save or a far save, and Femortis can fulfill both those roles, so he's just fantastic there. Arvel is an amazing nuke, and being able to inflict that guard is always nice. And then Mirabilis is a very good mythic dancer, as she is melee, so it's much more difficult to bait her, and because she's a flyer, she can offer things like Guidance 4 or Soaring Guidance 4, which can make your defense extremely mobile and difficult to run away from. Now down in S tier, we're going to have Freyr next. I think Freyr has the potential to go up to S+, but currently I'm just not too impressed with him as an actual unit. I think his preference C skill definitely has the potential to be very powerful and shut down a lot of annoying things you have to deal with, like false start, which could make him meta for sure. But as a unit, like a melee cav just does not offer as much to your team as like a ranged nuke does, or like an armor who can do a save roll, or a dancer, right? So the problem more is not in his ability to support, but in his actual role and movement type. So I'm gonna have him down in S tier. Maybe after some testing he'll go up, we'll have to check. Underneath that we have Throsir, who's just honestly a solid nuke people sleep on a lot. And then in A tier we have Lif and Duma. Lif can be a pretty solid frontliner, but he just doesn't offer all that much as a melee. He doesn't really offer any type of support, and he can do some damage, but that's really not what you're looking for your defense. And then with Duma, Duma can be a good armor unit who can run as a save, but he's definitely not as powerful as Fomortis and has a lot of weaknesses compared to Fomortis, so it's just always better to pick up Fomortis and use him in my opinion, especially because Fomortis was free to play if you picked him up during that month where he was free. And then bottom in B tier, we have Saros and Odor, and there's not much to say. I think Saros just kind of fulfills the same role as Lif, but does it worse. And Odor, like I was mentioning with Freyr, is a melee cav, and they just do not perform well on defense typically. You really need something special for them to be able to work on defense, like Legendary Sigurd with the 4 movement, right, and Holy Knight Aura, or like Brave Self or something like that. Even that nowadays really isn't used, so I think that melee cavs are definitely not what you want to be using on defense typically. Okay, with that, let's move on to the final question, should you pull? And there are some good pros on this banner. The number one for me is Rearmed Ingrid. Getting a rearmed unit means you can duplicate a ton of fodder, and Ingrid is one of the best options for that with Guidance 4 and Soaring Guidance, so I'm very excited to see her there. I think she overall makes the blue pool very valuable, considering you can not only get the new Mythic and merges for Nerthus possibly, but even more copies of her, and every copy is so valuable. You also get an option of a really good colorless pool if you need one of those heroes, and we get some meta offense and defense mythics in the forms of ELIMINE, Arvel, Medius, and possibly Freyr as well. So overall, very nice color share for that. When it comes to cons, I think green is kind of meh, and red is okay, but not great either. And the biggest thing you have to remember is that Choose Your Legends is less than a month away, probably 2 to 3 weeks, which means if you are really invested in those Choose Your Legends winners, you want to save orbs for them because those banners typically have multiple sparks, meaning that you can get a lot of value from those banners if you want to pull on them. And of course the last thing is that we do have another seasonal banner coming up right before Choose Your Legends. Now most likely it's Thieves, but if you're like me and you are smoking all the copium, you are hoping that Pirates are coming back instead of Thieves, and hopefully I am correct and it's already at dawn and we get racing, but who knows. Either way, I'd love to hear from you now. What do you think of Freyr? What do you think of this banner? Are you going to be pulling on this banner? And if you are, who are you pulling for? I'd love to hear about it, so make sure to drop a comment down below. And as always, I'd like to thank my members for all their constant support. And if you enjoyed the video, like, subscribe. This has been Oblivion. I'll catch you all later.